You're listening to All Burgundy and Gold, everything with the urban sports scene on Fox Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM, Hopewell, Virginia. Wole, Ray, and Mo are your hosts. Joining us today is Adam Aniba from the Burgundy and Gold Report. What's good, Adam? I see you're podcasting now, man.
Yeah, man, all over the place, trying, man.
Okay, well, tell our listeners about your new platforms, man.
Okay, so as of January, I came co-host with my guy and everybody's friend Haikun on Football Garbage Time. We're a fantasy podcast, go around the league, talk about all things, especially Washington, now with me on there. And I'm recently doing now with the draft with the Brawl Network with Parker and Rio. We're doing a special week. This week, we're going to talk about the draft. We talk about free agency. And as always, my news site, as of January, we've been doing the articles for a while now, but finally took it to the next level with the Burgundy and Gold Report.com. We'll talk about that. But my prospect cards evaluation, and always did small school. But with this year, with COVID, I have to change things up a little bit. So really just focused on pure fits for Washington. So, we're just trying to bring that content to the fans that are not really familiar with all those back end middle round guys.
So you're talking about the casuals. The casuals.
Yes.
Excellent, man. Well, we're about to kick off episode 153. Subscribe now to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Search All Burgundy and Gold, everything. Also, tweet us at the Urban Sports Scene and hit us up at the Urban Sports Scene Facebook page. It is now time for our pregame show. And today, what we have on tap, we're going to talk about all things Brandon Scherff rejecting the Washington football team's offer and possible replacements for him in the draft.
Oh, I'm so proud, man. I'm so proud. I feel like I'm going to cry right now, man. It's like,
good work.
Oh man, like this is what I got right here. Oh man, talking about, man. That's
more work to do, man. We're gonna figure it out.
Hey, bro. You got this, bro. You got this. All right, Adam, man. Appreciate you having you on, man. You my guy. It's been reported that guard Brandon Scherff has declined a deal by the Washington football team that would make him the highest paid guard in the game. What came to your mind when you heard that, he's declining the offer?
Well, as soon as the second tag came around, that's never a good thing. Historically, if you just look at the past, there's been, I think, maybe one or two situations where it's been worked out. Most times there's been a trade. Mm-hmm. So as soon as that second tag came around, so basically now the floor is $18 million a year. You can't get franchised and then go lower from there on a long-term deal. So now the floor is 18 going forward. He is gonna, bet on himself. I don't see him back in Washington. Mm-hmm. Washington's options, in my opinion, are limited. Because for the draft capital they might be looking for, I just don't think teams will really be looking to, give that up for Brandon right now. So I think Washington's in a tough situation financially, at least this year with him.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they're definitely in a tough situation. It's hard because, right, you're getting a guy who's arguably one of the best guards in football, but that money, the money he's asking for, and and Washington's been in this situation, right? They've been in this situation before Kirk Cousins. And I'm sure that, he's looked at a situation where, I've seen how this played out. Right. I can possibly get guaranteed money. And I know I'm his agent, and I've seen a player that I've dealt with in the past. I've seen a player like Kirk Cousins. I've seen what he can milk this organization for. And this team just came off a season where they made the postseason. He's looking at it and he does, from what I've heard, he does like Ron Rivera. He likes where the team is going. But, money is money. money is money, and money talks. And if you get a situation where now, if you look at the way today's NFL is going, players have looked at the blueprint. I'm keep mentioning Cousins. They look at the blueprint. They're like, man, you know what? If I play my cards right, this ain't baseball. But I get like guaranteed money. And so it does put Washington in a bad situation because and it's so close to the draft, and you wish you could work this out a little earlier for this draft. Maybe you can got some capital, but it's tough. It really is a tough situation.
It really is. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it really is, and I'm gonna piggyback off of Adam. Right, I think Adam hit on two points there that I wanted to piggyback on. The frequency of a player getting tagged twice and returning to a team, I think, is very, very seldom. I think the last person was DeMarcus Lawrence. in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And he got franchised twice, and he ended up signing the extension. And we've seen we've seen very little of him ever since, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once I've been saying this since day one. Once they didn't negotiate that deal the first time,
right.
The second time that they put him on that franchise, that 18 would now be the floor. Mm-hmm. Or you have to do something out of this world to make me want to come back, because I am all pro. Because after Quentin Nelson, I'm probably the best guard in football. Mm-hmm. Him and I think it's Joe Tooney that was with the Patriots, arguably. Right. So when you look at the stature of player that he is, and you look at what he's given to this organization, and you got to understand that's another thing. If I'm not giving a hometown discount to the first team I've ever played for and giving everything to play through injury. I played through different regimes. You know, I'm consistent. I'm all pro, coming off an all pro season last year. Like it's hard when you come off your best season or one of your best seasons and it's your pay year. You're gonna have to sweep me away, and it just so happens to coincide with this year cap going down, right? And I'm not necessarily sure that the Washington football team wouldn't give him that $18 million. I just think it doesn't fit into the puzzle for this year, right? And how the salary cap works. But then again, there are smart people in the building that can figure out a salary cap for future years, right? Because they can make it a low number this year and further. So I think they have their value for him, given this new regime. He has his own value. If I'm him, I'm testing the market. I'm gonna play for the 18 million this year because it's guaranteed. I think he's made over 35 million in the last 2 years, or just about 35 million in the last 2 years.
Yep.
I'm gonna bet on myself, and I'm gonna go try to get that number in guarantees over the first 2-3 years of a new contract.
Right. 100%. And the thing with, you know, the current situation now is exactly, he doesn't want to really come to the table. So I think they're ready to eat it. So I think it was a little bit of chicken. And in the end, I think they hope that by giving him that second tag, you know, start there with the floor, that and make him the highest paid with the offer, that they could sit down with the table. But I think that we've seen in the past with Ron Rivera, that has to be one concern. If you've seen his Carolina teams, the offensive line, it's, you know, they'll have a guy like Khalid, like an all pro, but then they'll neglect the position, you know, for too many rounds. I don't think we're going to see it where like last year's draft where no tight end was taken, you know, with guards. I think we're going to see it first round. I don't see it likely, but after that, I think, you know, guard's going to be playing every single round. And I think regardless of what happens with him, they have to build up that position right now. So I've seen what he's done, and typically players in his position, when they come to get this old and have dealt with some of the injuries, there's some question marks there. And I have to say, you know, Wally will attest to that. You know, Morgan Moses have been on the fence with him, but I think he really was a big reason that Brandon's play really stepped up this year too. So, you know, you have two guys on that side, and you have to think, you know, what's going to happen with both? Are you going to lose both of them? You're going to try to bring back both. So it's a tricky situation, but I think it's in Brandon's court. I really don't think Washington has much say in the matter.
Yeah, and to your point about Morgan, they just have a good rapport. It is what it is. One, it's like a yin and yang effect. When they're both together, it's just chemistry. That's why that side is strong. When one is out, you know, the other kind of doesn't play to the same level as which we've probably seen. That there's a reason why Morgan Moses had one of his best years last season when Brandon Scherff came back, and there's a reason why you saw, I want to say a couple years ago when Morgan went down, you saw Brandon having to hold it down by himself. He wasn't as strong, right? So they worked very well together. But it's at the point where, you know, you with if you're Washington, you hope that, you know, this season plays out. You still have him. He's franchised. You still going to play him out this season. And whatever happens after that. You know, things can change when you're winning football games. Because at the end of the day, and I had Lake Lewis on from Sports Journey not too long ago on another show. He stated this. It was a fair point. Is that he's been used to seeing an inept front office, an inept organization. So it's a wait and see. He's probably looking at like, I want to make sure this is right. So I can stay with this franchise. And then next season, if we still are improving as an organization, as a team and organization, I have no issue coming back. Because you can't, because he's still at a position in his life, right, where he has an opportunity to go elsewhere and look at a situation, put himself in a situation that is in a contending situation. Now, if Washington shows him next season, you know what, they're on a projection upwards, then I think that he will probably consider coming back. But if they don't, they take 2 steps back, he's gone, definitely.
Winning solves everything. So two seasons in a row consecutive, if either, you know, division champs or competing for it, I think if that's what he's looking for, he'll be back. But I think the combination of success and the money he can get in the open market, knowing that the cap's going to go up nearly, I think, estimate about 28 million, regardless if he's the top paid or not, adding situation plus money. So honestly, I don't blame him. I'd be doing the same thing if I was in his position. And yeah, I don't think this whole thing with home team discounts, unless you win the Super Bowl and you play with Tom Brady. I think that's the only situation where that happens.
Only exists with Tom Brady. Discounts only exist with Tom Brady.
That's right. It's a false.
You have to exercise your right? You have to exercise your right, and he's playing his hand properly. It is a business at the end of the day. It is a short life. It is a short shelf life, so you want to make sure that you're maximizing your ability, and it's towards some wins. He's been through some downtrodden years, and then last year was I would still say that last year was a miraculous year in terms of winning the division at 7-9 and winning the worst division of all time. That's
your tagline, man. I love it though.
It is. It's just that was last year. That was the worst division of all time in terms of the numbers.
Come on.
There've been 7-9 teams before.
I'm about to say,
right? When Carolina went 7-9, another team in that division went 7-9.
There's some bad divisions, bro. There's been some bad divisions in football.
Think about it. The whole division is in the top 11 in the draft.
There's some bad divisions though. This division was trash. I'm not going to argue that. This division was trash. I'm not arguing that. But there have been some bad divisions historically in football.
Not by the numbers, not by the win-loss record. This was
sometimes you can't look. If you watch, sometimes you always can't go by numbers, bro. Like sometimes you gotta look at the eye test. Because you watch. I'm giving an example. I'm going off topic, but you like Russell. You like Russell Westbrook?
Adam, this guy here.
Russell Westbrook. You like Russell Westbrook?
Don't take me down that rabbit hole. I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
I'm saying, like, you like Russell Westbrook? I'm talking about numbers because we talking numbers, right? And this is what we're doing now. We're talking numbers. Russell Westbrook is like arguably the best player ever. Like he gets Oscar Robertson numbers. Like arguably the best player because of his numbers. But if you watch the eye test though.
There's other numbers that you're not taking account for, like 26% for three-point shooting.
Look. But I'm saying when you average a triple-double, the numbers are telling you like, oh man, this dude. We always assess players. This is the thing. We used to always assess players on triple-doubles because we're gonna use their argument. Jason Kidd used to shoot a horrible percentage, but we all knew that Jason Kidd was probably still one of the best players on the floor because his teams would win games because of that. Because his numbers were impactful. They just weren't numbers. They're impactful. Right. But I'm telling you, Russ gives you a triple-double.
Jason Kidd was more of a general, though. He's more of a floor general.
Okay, so again, that's an eye test thing. See, when you're saying that's an eye test, that's not a statistical thing. That's my point. That is an eye test thing.
I can see how many points he accounts for on the team. I can see how
you can say the same about Russ. Russ accounts for certain points, but turns the ball over. That's all I'm saying. It's the stat. I'm just telling you. All I'm saying is you go eye test. That's all I'm saying.
Wole, what I'm saying is there's other stats like the one you just presented. The turnover. Like the shooting percentage, it's not efficient.
We need to look at strength of schedule. That's what we need to do. Then we're going to break down look at strength of schedules in those divisions. Maybe the strength of schedules weren't as daunting.
You see where we went, Adam?
That's what I'm saying.
But see, that's why I like football, man, because football, we're not only talking about one guy or another for the most part, but when we get off of the quarterback, we're talking about the other 52. So that's why I love football, man. I love basketball too, but football, to me, football is just so deep and there's just so many more layers than any other sport.
Definitely.
That's why I love it.
So. And in the NBA, one player can change the trajectory of a whole team. It can't happen like that in the NFL.
To a certain extent.
One player can dominate. One player can dominate the whole. The Lakers went from not making the playoffs for like 6 straight years, and LeBron won the championship the next year.
But you're talking about that's because you got AD. But that's a whole different argument. No, we're gonna stay here. I'm a LeBron dude, but we're gonna stay here. I'm a LeBron dude. We gotta stay here though. All right, so I blame myself for this because I know I did this. I brought Russ into the play, so I blame myself. I knew what I did. I know what I did. I own that too. I own when I do stuff like that. So Adam, all right. So Adam. So, a lot of fans, because of this, and I know I talked about it a little bit, but because of, Brandon Scherff rejecting this deal, a lot of fans are angry, obviously, because when you hear that somebody is getting offered to be the highest paid guard, you're automatically thinking like, hey, man, you should take it.
Right.
Dak Prescott took that deal, and everybody looks at that and says, you don't have Dak Prescott, declining that type of deal. So with all that being said, should Washington, if they could, should they try hard to trade Brandon Scherff? And if they can't, if if they're really thinking about it, what is a real, true, feasible compensation for him? Like a real, true. Now I want to hear about a first round pick. I heard people throwing out stuff, but what's real feasible compensation for Brandon Scherff?
Yeah, and I think we saw with the Jets trade, think more 22, not in 2021. And so that's what you're weighing. If you try to move him now, expect, later, maybe third if you're lucky, but I'd say more around fourth round or so. And then maybe in 22, you can come around and get maybe a second and a third or second and a fourth. But I just don't see it happen. I think draft, we're seeing it with the trade ups. It's not just the quarterbacks. There's studs in this draft. I think draft capital first round through third round is desirable. So to move that, I think teams will take their chances on a guard and see how it works in the third or fourth round. I've got a bunch of guys that honestly, I'm not thrilled with it, but I'm okay with letting them walk. Okay. Because I think that the line still has a lot of work to do. And even if they bring him back, you still got the left tackle. Morgan Moses could be gone because of a financials, because how much you're going to dedicate to one side. Yeah. We've already, extended our center. So, we have some guys to look at. So I do think that in the end, it probably is just a Kirk Cousins situation, unfortunately.
All right. So to that, then speaking of the draft, Adam, like you're big on, dissecting the draft. The draft is at the end of April.
28th.
Yeah. 28th or 29th? Is it 28th?
28th, 29th.
29th. Yeah. So are there any guards that this team should target? And I know you do a big, you basically scout all of these. You scout a lot of these individuals out. So is there a guard, or are there guards that this team should target?
Yeah, we do phases at, my site. Like we really, since I got to know you since then, we've really gotten more phases. So we've really hit the wide receivers, tight ends for the most part, and linebackers really hard. So really getting into that. But the interior lineman, like you can see behind me, I'll start from backwards to forwards. Awesome. Day 3 is David Moore. I actually sat down with him on another podcast, Grambling. Another HBCU guy. He is my small school guy this year. Awesome. If you saw him at the Senior Bowl, he was just mauling people. He was doing everything you saw on tape. He's nasty. He's a finisher. I have him as a left guard. And I think when you get to that fifth round range, it's a sweet spot. He's about 6'1.5", 350. People look at him a little undersized, short arms. But again, I just said, go turn on the Senior Bowl practices. He got voted MVP by the opposing team's pass rushers. Awesome. That says a lot. And you know what? Another guy I actually have in that day 2 gem round is, everyone's probably heard of him. He was on Good Morning Football with, Jay Adams, our favorite.
That's what I was going to mention.
And he's been on there multiple times. Wisconsin Whitewater. People started talking about him in the same, breath as Ali Marpet, who Tampa Bay got. I actually think that he has more upside. He doesn't have that quite athletic pedigree that Marpet does, but what he makes up for is intelligence. And when I saw him in the practices, when I saw the film, and honestly, guys, it was not hard. It was not easy to get. The Division III Wisconsin Whitewater clips are grainy, not good, but I love this guy. If Washington has 2 third rounds, one of those third round picks is a sweet spot for him. And then I'll go all the way to the first round. This is the one that I see as the most unlikely scenario. This guy has really risen up boards. Elijah Vera Tucker, USC. He played left tackle for all this year, but he did it based on need, and he was one of the best athletes on the team. So I have him a little bit far-fetched. He's a top 25 guy. If the board doesn't really shape up for Washington and they decide to stay there and they're really intent on finding, he's a swing tackle and a guard, they could look at him. But I just don't, like I said, I just don't see the first round for it. Another name we'll hear is Deante Brown, Alabama, the big boy, 6'3", 364. I put him in that realm with David Moore in the 4th, 5th round. But in my opinion, I think, like I said, I think that day 3 range, we're going to be able to find multiple guards. So I don't think that Washington should panic. I think take care of the middle linebacker, tight end, if they can get that free safety, and, of course, left tackle. But I think they'll be all right with guard, because I just think there's some decent depth on, day 2 through 3 in this class.
All right. Mo, you have something you want to say?
I mean, I would have to agree. I was just going to say that his day 2 gem was the guy that I was thinking about. I seen him at the Senior Bowl, and he talked about how he was mauling people at the Senior Bowl, and he stands about 6'3", 320. So he's not a little boy. You know what I mean? Right. We know that Wisconsin Whitewater is a affiliate of the actual University of Wisconsin, and so I believe that that's where Pierre Garçon went when he got in some issues in college before he got drafted. So they have a pedigree of bringing us, at least having people make camp rosters.
Right.
And from the attributes that he has and the way that his film looked, because he is really, really nasty. He has a nasty disposition about him. I believe if the line was fortified, he would be somebody that was a no-brainer on the second or third day that you can bring in and he could fill in a role because he wouldn't have to lead the charge. Like I was looking at them drafting him and pairing him with Brandon Scherff.
Right.
Pairing him with Brandon Scherff because I know they loved the kid from LSU last year, but I know he was a knucklehead in college too. So, and they're high on him for some reason, but left tackle is still a need. And at 19, I've been saying it on every show. Like 19, remember early on, I was like 19 is a rough spot. Like I've been saying 19 is offensive tackle and cornerback range because the only other player that they can get of need that's going to fit would be Zaven Collins, but he's a 6'4", 260-pound linebacker.
Don't get me started on the argument on Zaven, but I've been doing it for 2 weeks. He's a Mike, bro. He can play Mike and outside. Don't sleep. I
understand, and I look at him and I look at him when I seen him at Tulsa, I look at him and I'm like, they use him everywhere. They kind of just use him to just cause havoc.
Right.
If they need him to drop back, he'll drop back. They need him to rush, he'll rush. So he's very versatile, but he's big. Like he's like an old school linebacker. He's like Brian Urlacher, like 6'4", 250 plus, coming down here. He's a thumper, right? He's a thumper, but he's showing some athletic ability. I was looking to see more from his measurables in terms of his numbers, his stats, right? So when I look at him, I'm like, at 19, it might be a little bit of a reach, but he'll be better than anything that they have because Corey Holcomb can't be your best linebacker on your roster.
Right. And you know what? And what I said, not to get off topic too much, but what I see is when I look at a prospect in that range, you're going to lose those top 10 real blue chippers. And although I love Zaven Collins, one of my favorite, let's not sleep. Micah Parsons is the best linebacker in his class. But what Collins does is he's a game changer. With Washington's front line, if we didn't have that, I'd be on board with what you're saying. I'm saying maybe trade back with what they have. You're talking about solidifying the defense with one person. And you're talking about safety, cornerback. This guy, he's not going to play at 260, number one. He was asked to put on 50 pounds, 5-0.
Since he got there.
He's not going to play at that. That was a college thing. If you know college guys, they're either told to put it or leave it. He's going to play on that 235 range, 240. 2 interceptions in November in an 11-day span. Interception with 5 seconds left sealed the game. They were down 5 points. I think it was at Troy State. 1 minute and 20 seconds in double overtime. He picked it off at the 3-yard line, went 97 yards for a touchdown. People look at his size and they get a little shook. They see 4'6", 40, and they get a little shook.
And they say 3-4 outside linebacker.
That's why everyone talks about Brian Urlacher, this and that, because people talked about him in that safety linebacker role. Well, with Collins, it's that outside linebacker Mike role. He can play both, but if you want to really utilize this guy, you're going to let him drop. You're not going to take him off the field. So you have him on third down. He had 4 picks last year, two for touchdowns. And then 4 sacks to go along. So, long story short, I'm just going on my mission lately has been to the Zaven Collins, to people that are like, stick him on the outside, is to say, I've spent more time on him. Wally would tell you, Kyle Duggar was my guy last year. This is the guy, not necessarily small school, but I've spent the most time back high school. Dude played quarterback. Dude played wide receiver. These are the guys that Ron Rivera loves. So I'm just saying, I'm playing the devil's advocate and who I think there's wide receivers there's going to drop, and there's players like
wide receivers that are going to drop. Say it. There's some wide receivers that are going to drop.
Devontae Smith. Remember I said that Devontae Smith is my guess. It's going to be Chase and Waddle, and I think Devontae Smith is going to be one of the ones that drop. He might get to Washington, but he's my one who I think could.
It's no way that Devontae. It's no way Devontae.
There's been rumors, bro. Telling you, they've been rumors.
Scouts are a little. I've talked to a lot of independent guys. And
I'll tell you one scout that it won't be a problem for.
The size is scary.
One scout it won't be a problem for is the guy in New England because of the affiliation with Alabama already. So if he's at 15, you can cancel Christmas on. You can cancel Christmas. You can cancel Christmas on that. Listen, tape or no tape, you can cancel Christmas on that. I love Zaven Collins. Like I said, that 6'4", 260 is going to throw a lot of people off. I think that he'll be fine wherever he plays because he's just that instinctual.
Just versatile.
He's just that instinctual. If he gets into a 3-4 program, he wouldn't have to lose as much weight. And
right.
now he can wreak havoc. Like,
right.
I don't see a situation where he goes past the Ravens or Pittsburgh if he gets if the Washington football team don't draft him. He will be the perfect person for those teams.
Right.
The perfect person. I may not have watched him as much as you, but I used to coach high school football. Formerly, I have a kid that plays at Coastal Carolina and another one at Middle Tennessee State. So I've seen him versus them, and he's the best player on the field every time.
Right.
Every time.
Right. Right. Every and that's time. What Tulsa did. Tulsa, he was clearly the best, and they just try to put him everywhere and sticking him in the 260. What I kept looking at him is like, man, if he gets down, when I saw him in high school, he had better production because of, he just got better. But man, get him in that 235, 240 range. I'm telling you. Also, these pro days are really blown out of proportion, guys. I'm really hearing these times. Do not look at the times. People are saying they're all over the place. I'm not saying he's going to run faster than the 4.6, but people telling me this Rashad Bateman, the 4.37, they're saying that's not what happened. He's more of a 4.45 guy, maybe, in that 4.5 range. So I'm just telling everyone, there's good and there's bad. The tape doesn't lie. And if we're looking for gamers, there's Washington's going to have some, but it's an odd place because you're going to have offensive linemen go, cornerbacks, because with all those quarterbacks going, Pitts going, blue chippers are going to drop it. We'll always talk about the trade down, but man, they're going to have options, guys, for sure.
They're going to have some options because I'm looking at it like Micah Parsons has to be in the top 10, right? You got to. Patrick Surtain's going to be in there.
Top 10.
I hope he goes anywhere but Dallas.
That's right.
I think going to Dallas.
He's going to Dallas.
I need him to go anywhere but Dallas. I need somebody to come back and come get him because I seen his pro day at, man, you talk about salivating. Wole, salivating, 61.5, moving like that. 20 on the bench, man, he looked the part. He looks the part. So when I look at that, Penei Sewell has to go top 10. Penei Sewell, outside of quarterbacks, might be the best player in the draft.
Right.
Like he has to go top 10. So you already had 8, 9 picks. Yeah, so somebody's going to get somebody.
Quarterbacks, like you probably got the top 4, like the quarterback situation. You probably got top, like the three quarterbacks are going top 3 already.
Atlanta shopping the number 4 pick right now. That means Denver has to come get them because they were. I believe Carolina got Sam Darnold because Atlanta looked at it and said, "We can't give you your future quarterback in the future in our division," and that's why they went after Sam Darnold because it would have been a self-inflicted gunshot if they'd have did that.
100%.
Right. So now Denver has to move up to come to 4 to get a quarterback because that's their Achilles heel. They doubled up on corners this offseason, so I don't see them going cornerback again because they got Fuller and Darby. They re-signed Justin Simmons to the highest contract ever for a safety. Nothing else fits in that top 10 for them. So they got to move up and they got to come get their 4th pick from Atlanta. Then Atlanta moves to 9, right? And then Atlanta can do anything. Atlanta's not going to go wide receiver. So I'm looking at Atlanta like that's Micah Parsons territory right there. I'm looking at Carolina like that's Kyle Pitts territory. If Carolina wants to do well, they draft Kyle Pitts, especially with the addition. I mean, with C-Mac coming back, the 2 receivers they have on the outside, DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Like they could go defensive player because they have a history of going linebacker, even with the old regime. But the way that Matt Rule is in terms of offense, I see Kyle Pitts in that future in the middle. Kyle Pitts being this, with Robbie Anderson taking the top off the defense and DJ Moore doing everything else underneath. Kyle Pitts is going to go crazy, especially with Joe Brady. Joe Brady's offense, right? He can use him as a flex in the slot, and he'll play the same effect as Justin. Like that's why Curtis Samuel did well last year. I keep telling you guys this. Yeah. Curtis Samuel did well in the slot last year because he played the same position as Justin Jefferson in the LSU offense.
He did great in the slot because he didn't
do great in the slot.
He did great. He was explosive. He's a trick player. Look.
He had his best season.
No. He did a great. For Carolina. He had a decent year.
Adam, when we say that Curtis Samuel's first 3 years with the current regime in Washington,
I'm a Michigan fan. So I mean, I know what I need to know about Curtis Samuels. And I said this when Carolina drafted Curtis Samuels, they were getting the gadget player. So I know all about Curtis Samuels. Like all I'm saying is that
you have to use him in a certain way.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's been always my argument. You got to use Curtis Samuels a certain way. But Adam,
that's not to kill him.
Yeah, but Adam, to the point of it though, you're talking about like the top in the so many blue chip individuals are going to be drafted so early that some people may slip down. Because in your opinion, other than say Deante Smith, because I think that'd be great. But I'm with Mo. I know I'm hearing a lot of that chatter, but I'm kind of like not vibing it because he was just too dominant for me to think that he could slip that far back down. But what other players could slip to Washington?
A lot of people are getting high on we talked about Surtain, is J.C. Horn. A lot of the son of Horn that played for the New Orleans Saints.
Joe Horn.
Yeah,
so everyone's getting high on him. Personally, I just think after they got William Jackson, I don't think Surtain, you're going to have to really think about it if he's there at 19. But other than Surtain, there's no way you go cornerback. So
Caleb Fairley.
What's that?
Caleb Fairley from Virginia.
The back scares the hell out of me. I'm not touching him in the early part of round one. If I had a back in round one, I see a team jumping back into round one, the last 3 picks to go on Fairley, because that's a risk. But the thing is, if you're going to take that risk, you get a 5th-year option out of it. So you look like a genius if it works out. So anyone who picks him in the top 25, that's why Horn, they jumped him. But we talked about him, but
the back end of the year off.
Yeah.
That's tough.
There's guys. There's Christian Darsall. He's the name that keeps coming up, the one that keeps slipping to 19. And what I say, I'm really getting to more tape. He is a stud in the run game, but there's a lot of holes in his pass pro. So for them to go at 19, I'm looking at Ron Rivera's history. I just don't see offensive linemen. I see them doing one of two things: solidifying that defense with either Trevor Moore against safety. Like we talked about, a middle linebacker.
In the first round?
But, what's that?
The safety in the first round?
That's possible. Not at 19. I think we're talking, I should have left it trade back.
They have to move back, right?
Yeah, if they move back like into the 20s, that's what I'm saying. I should have professed that. But so at 19, there's really only a few guys I see that are worthwhile at 19. Like I said, Collins is one of them. But when we talk about guys dropping, it's going to be all the eye of the beholder. What's going to happen is there's going to be 2 or 3 teams that are going to jump up for a receiver. We're going to be like, really? They're going to jump up for a lineman that was like, we thought in the second round. It happens every year. So, like I said, it's my prediction. I'm going to stick to it. I think Deante Smith is going to be the one that slips, and he is my dark horse pick for Washington if it's not David Collins.
You know who I don't want to see? You know who I don't want to see come to Washington as a Giants fan? I don't want them to get close to having their hands on the linebacker from Notre Dame. I think he's a better fit.
Koromoa. Yeah, I think he's a beast.
Koromoa.
That's the debate I had last night too. He's a tweener, man. And the thing is, you have, I'm not going to prop up Khalid Hudson so much as another like a Viper tweener guy, but he's not what they need. It's about what do they need right now? What is solidified? And I don't say you put him on the field and he never comes off. I can say that about Collins. JOK, I think in New York with New York Giants, he would be awesome in that system. With what Ron Rivera and more important, Jack Del Rio runs, think more Kaliki. People talked about Thomas Davis. They're not the same. Will linebacker, maybe. But if they're looking for a Mike, JOK is not the guy. That's why I keep going on show saying I just don't see him as a Mike.
But when we look, I don't think he's going to play the Mike, though. I think you bring him in and you use him in the Shaq Thompson role. You look at Carolina's linebacker history with, they inherited Thomas Davis. Right. They drafted Luke. But Luke was no debate about Luke at the time, right?
Yeah.
Luke Kuechly. And then they went ahead and they got Shaq Thompson from the University of Washington after his dual purpose year. And that's the mold that I see Koromoa playing, and especially in this new NFL where you need linebackers that can fit in space, that can play in the box and can cover. Like I see him dropping back in this, especially the way that Ron Rivera's defenses typically play that cover 3 and hook the flat range. I've been arguing with Wole and Ray. I didn't like the William Jackson signing, not for the amount, because if you don't allow him to put his hands on people,
it's true.
I think you just overpaid for him to be out of position.
Right.
Because
constantly happens. Yeah, constantly. And that's what's going to happen with JOK. Someone's going to take him, and they're going to put him in a role that he's not suited for. If you're asking me, I think that you don't put him anywhere near the mic. Like you said, a Shaq Thompson role, okay. But are you going top 20 for that role? And that's what I argue. 25 to 30 for because some of what they were talking about on the show I was on last night, that if you get that Will, then maybe you can put Colcom to the middle. I don't see it. I like Colcom more on the left and the right. I want a true Mike.
So Adam, what do you think about the second round? You have Dylan Moses from Alabama.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if we do, I like a guy. Nick Bolton is a guy I love. I just don't think he's going to be there at 51. Okay, I love Nick Bolton in a trade back. If you're talking about in the 20s, to me, Nick Bolton's a plug and play. You have Holcomb on one side, and you have other guys that you can fill that need. So it can be done in a variety of ways. You know.
What about Chaz Surratt from North Carolina?
I wrote about him pre-Senior Bowl. I love him, a former quarterback. He came in the first year as a linebacker. You know, Hulk Holcomb was there, but when Holcomb was there, he was actually a quarterback. He hurt his wrist. But when Surratt came in, he dominated. I think he was in the top ACC in tackles, everything. I like him as a developmental guy, more towards that Will side, not middle linebacker. It would, to me, I'd be comfortable in about maybe 2 years if he can show enough growth. But to me, there's very few Mikes in this draft, and that's what I keep arguing with. I think Parsons is one guy. I think Collins is another guy. Bolton is another guy. After those three, you can argue. You can argue that those guys are Wills.
I think you're the first person that's this adamant about Collins playing the middle that I've heard, you know, and watching them. I can understand why everybody wants him to play on the outside.
Me too.
Now,
Me too.
The element that you just presented to me today is starting to. You taught me something today. You know, I gotta go back, and I gotta go back. I gotta go back and check that. That's some good stuff.
Thank you.
Oh man, I love the show.
I try to teach Wole and them, but I'm too much of a football coach at heart. You know, they too much of a fan.
Look, man, not even that. You know what I'm saying? Like he got a little Giants in him. I'm trying to get the Giant thing out of him, but you know, it's hard. It's hard.
I'm just saying, I'm a football coach.
It's hard.
Wole, I can't even watch football. I can't even watch football for enjoyment. I'm critiquing.
Oh man,
I've been a high school football coach for like 8 years.
Oh man, I don't watch football like I used to. I mean, I don't watch it as a fan like I used to. Because Adam knows, like, you know, if I go to the game, I don't focus on, like, I'm focusing on other things now, like angles and storyline. And I used to be, I used to punch holes in walls as a Washington football fan. I used to be like that fan. I'm not that fan anymore. Ray will tell you in college, folks know about me.
I will say with this regime, man, we just don't know which way they're gonna go. I do think that there are a lot of
blessing, though. That is the blessing. Yeah. That is the blessing on the flip side.
I mean, with the history of the team in the second round, you know, I'm not.
This is what I will tell.
New scouting department. It's a new scouting department, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But the second round will always going to be. Multiple scouting departments have dropped the ball in the second round. So this second round is huge this year, in my opinion.
It feels one of those, because the second round this year is huge, because if it fills one of those positions unexpectedly,
right,
now you're set up for success for 3-4 years.
That's a starter.
And you know, which is going to be a test, you know, for this regime and this, you know, the scouting department, because you know, for the last some odd years, they've been getting quality players late rounds, like quality players late rounds that has been on their third starters, third, fourth, exactly. It's Cam Curl, you got
Cam Curl is still in the draft. I don't care what nobody.
Exactly. Cam Curl, Cam Curl. You have recently, you know, you got Gibson, who folks didn't think about. So you got guys who
Roulier.
You got individuals that they've done well with Kyle Smith and company have done well within scouting in the late and helping draft some of these later round picks. So now it's just going to be a sign for this regime if they can do the same. You know, a lot of times, you know, a lot of people say it's easy to get the top two pick, you know, your first round picks, your first and second round picks, right? Supposedly, it's supposed to be easier. Supposedly.
I mean,
it's all a skill.
Nothing's easy about it.
Yeah.
How about to say Washington hasn't re-signed a second round draft pick in like 10 years.
Re-signed? Yeah, second round has been a curse.
They haven't re-signed a second round draft pick in about 10 years.
The second round isn't a good thing. Like
I think Preston Smith was the best one as of late.
Preston Smith, second rounder?
Yeah. Because Ryan Anderson was one.
Of late. You're talking about recent.
As of late, Ryan Anderson was one.
Yeah.
Well, he's with the Giants now, right? Yeah.
Huh?
Isaiah Anderson's with the Giants now, right?
Giants now. He's a Giant now.
I mean, he's gonna fill a bench role. I mean, he's gonna fill a bench role. Don't get me started on the Giants draft, but like I don't talk about the Giants as a fan. I talk about the Giants from an aspect of the, trying
a little bit of both, man. Go ahead, though. A little bit of both.
So
a little bit of both. I feel it's a little bit of both, though. It's all good, man. This is what I feel like. We about to close the show though, but I feel like normally, and it's natural. That's why I don't argue. It's natural. I feel like when you're a fan of a team,
right,
automatically, without you even knowing, an element of bias is going to be there. Like I thought.
No.
It is. No. It's facts. Like, no, I would tell Ray. Me and Ray would talk outside, and he'd be like, "Yeah, you would bias." And I'd be like, "Really? Really? Was I?" And I would say, like, you know what? Probably so, because it doesn't like it's always going to be an element. You could be thinking that you probably are thinking that you're dissecting everything, but it's automatically an element of biasness to anything. Because when you critique, real talk, when you critique, a lot of times there is a bias. There is a bias in everybody's critique.
I'm a Giants fan, and I talk bad about.
You should.
I talk bad about Saquon Barkley.
I talk bad about all. Yeah,
and I was the worst fan of Odell Beckham.
I don't know why you would be that, but still.
If you understood,
so that's a problem. That's a problem.
If you understood the vitriol I had for Odell Beckham, with the
see, I don't get that. See, look, man, I there's a lot of Washington people I don't like. You know what I'm saying? Like, and Adam knows there's a lot.
Can I go on a small tangent about Odell Beckham?
No, we can't. It's a Watch the Football Team podcast, bro. What are you doing? Hey, Adam, man, thanks for being on the show. Hey, let our listeners know how they can find you on social media and what you got featured on the Burgundy and Gold Report.
Yeah, like you see behind me. Follow me on Twitter at the BNG Report. All my articles at the burgundyandgoldreport.com. And like I said, our feature this year for our new site is our prospect cards, our one-touch prospect cards. You can find it on Twitter and Facebook. You literally go to our site. We have our prospects cards set up with all their bio in front. You literally click it for our Washington-based evaluation, highlights, and, anything else you need to know about prospects, what general role they'll play, what rounds they'll go. So we really customize it for the Washington fan. But if you're just a draft guy looking for prospects in that mid to late down, late 3 round, we've got it all. So the burgundyandgoldreport.com, just come and check us out.
Oh, Adam, we're gonna have you on. I'm gonna have you on a little closer to the draft as well.
Definitely.
We can break and talk.
I just started following you, Adam.
Yeah, it's good, man. My man.
I just started following you, man. Appreciate that.
So I'm glad you told me ahead of time, because usually Giants fans, I don't follow much back. Just too many crazies these days. But now at least you telling me, I'll follow you back. But there's been just some crazy Philadelphia, Dallas fans. It's been crazy. So it's like,
sir.
You're doing good if they're coming at you.
I don't hate the Washington football team. I don't hate the Washington football team.
I live in New York, man.
I don't hate the Washington football team.
He said, "Oh, look at you happy now."
I could walk to the stadium from my house. I don't hate the Washington football team, and everybody that I hang around is a fan. So I get a lot of, I argue about this all day, every day.
Yeah, of course, man. You like Ray. That's how Ray is. Ray's the same way. He used to be around a bunch of Washington fans, and that's why he despises us.
I get more information about Washington.
That's why he despises us. I had to, you know how long I had to work with Ray just to get him to this point? You know what I mean? Oh my God, there's so many backstories I want to have about my fandom and the people I deal with. But yeah, Adam, we're gonna try to get you back on. I want to talk about when I get you on, I want to talk about some, the small schools. I went to HBCU. Would like to talk about some kids at HBCUs that could possibly be targeted for the Washington football team. But yeah, Adam, man, appreciate you for you being on. Hey, folks, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Search all Burgundy and Gold, everything with the Urban Sports Scene. Also, tweet us at Urban Sports Scene and hit us up on our Urban Sports Scene Facebook page. And again, I appreciate Adam for being on, Mo for doing the darn thing. Me and Mo have our banter because we both Africans, so we can do that. You've been listening to All Burgundy and Gold, everything with the Urban Sports Scene on Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. Hopewell, Virginia, 4 ages, you dig, deuces, and big shout out to Mo, my man, for doing the intro. Hey, Mega, lead us out, big homie.
Peace.